Welcome to Citizen Athletics. Today we're talking about belts. Should you lift with a belt? Should you not lift with a belt? Are they dangerous? Are they beneficial? Let's talk about it. We went through all of the evidence on belts, whether it be for performance, rehab, do they lead to injuries, and we broke it all down and we're gonna show you guys all the information about it today. Some people out there use a belt whether they're doing bicep curls or deadlifts. It doesn't really matter. They're gonna strap on that belt and try and use it because they believe that it's gonna be really beneficial regardless. Whereas you've got other people that think that using a belt is cheating and it's a surefire way to get injured. Well, the total body of evidence actually doesn't say that lifting with a belt actually increases your likelihood of injury. Why use a belt? Using a belt is very beneficial for performance overall. When it comes to using a belt, we see an increase in strength. For some people, they're gonna see about a 5 to 10% increase in strength. Some might get a little bit more, some might get a little bit less. But it's a pretty consistent boost in performance. In almost every study done on using a belt for lifting, we see a performance boost. Only times that we don't is in situations where someone was never adjusted to using a belt. It may take a few lessons to get into it. So if you're new to using a belt, it might take a few sessions before you get fully adjusted to using it. Bar speed. There's been numerous studies now examining how a belt helps to transfer over to actually lifting faster. This makes sense because most of the time we see that bar speed is a good correlation over to 1 rep max, and because you should be able to lift more with a belt, you should be able to move the bar faster. Similarly, because you should be stronger, you should be able to get more reps with a given weight. We see that this is consistent in literature where people that are using a belt are able to get more reps before fatigue sets in. And then fatigue is essentially the reverse of that. If you do a set with a given load, if you use a belt on that set, you're gonna actually experience less overall fatigue because you're gonna be relatively stronger than if you had not used that belt. And then one additional point is for hypertrophy. Because you should be able to lift more weight, do more reps, and be less overall fatigued with a certain load, you should be able to give a greater stimulus for hypertrophy and muscle building overall. So those are the major reasons of why you would use a belt. Let's talk about why you wouldn't use a belt. If you're someone that has high blood pressure or any sort of cardiac issues, it's probably best to not use a belt unless you've been screened and cleared by a cardiologist. If you have any sort of abdominal or hernia type issues, it's probably good to avoid utilizing a belt because it does increase intra-abdominal pressure and that could be an issue for you. If you are someone that has a belief that lifting with a belt is dangerous or someone that is very fearful of using a belt, it's probably best to avoid it. And those are kind of situations of when we would not use a belt. So when should you use a belt? Should you use it for every set, every rep, every exercise, every session? No. When it comes to exercises, it's probably best to utilize a belt when you're doing more axially demanding exercises. So things that challenge your trunk to a really high degree, particularly your back. So exercises like squats, deadlifts, and similar ones. For sets, we're probably gonna wanna reserve it more for your top sets, your heaviest sets, and the sets where you're going to the highest level of effort. You'll hear some recommendations of not using a belt until you get above 90%. That's gonna be very relative to your situation. Most people benefit from doing warm-ups without a belt and then adding it in when they get into more challenging sets and then taking it away on back-offs and accessory movements. It's mostly beneficial on top best sets. You don't need to use it all the time. It can be something that you only utilize for certain blocks of training and then you rotate between. I'm an experienced trainee with over a dozen years of training underneath my belt, and I just spent all of 2019 not using a belt at all. I was someone who was very reliant on using a belt, so I wanted to experiment not using one and see what would happen. I actually found that when I had gotten into it, I was a little hesitant on going into heavier work, but across the year, I was able to get up to higher level of sets and feeling much more confident in them. Now I've brought back the belt, and I'm only adding it in for the occasional top set when I want a performance boost. How to use a belt. This is an important one because a lot of people use belts poorly. A belt is designed to increase intra-abdominal pressure and help provide extra support to your back. Unfortunately, a lot of people just try to flex or stand their way and they lose out on that benefit. The first thing is when we do this, we're not looking to just flex, we're not looking to just extend, we're looking to create circumferential pressure. So pressure all the way around on the top and bottom. You can think of it like a balloon. We're trying to push down and around. So that belt is providing the support around, and then you have your diaphragm, your pelvic floor pushing on the top and bottom. To learn this, something that you can do is take your belt and have it a little bit looser, 1 or 2 notches less than usual, and you can feel a little bit of space and try and expand out to it. Then you want to tighten up your belt and repeat that, and that's where you would actually normally lift like. So that was a breakdown on why you'd use a belt, why you wouldn't use one, how to use one, and when to use one. Make sure you guys comment below on what you'd like to see us cover next, subscribe for more content, and tap that like button.